Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite _UK. Subscribe to our channel to join us in exploring fascinating stories about rugby and strategies for evolving and preserving the identity of this sport.
Last week, when many key figures in the world of rugby gathered in London to discuss the future of the sport, I spent quite a bit of time reflecting on what was really happening behind the diplomatic statements. I could clearly sense that this was not just a technical meeting about the rules, but a tug-of-war over the identity, philosophy, and soul of 15-player rugby. Over the years, World Rugby has made numerous rule changes aimed at making the game more exciting, faster, and more accessible to new audiences. From a global development perspective, that's not wrong. Any sport must evolve to stay relevant in an increasingly competitive entertainment world. However, what makes me think is how fragile the line is between evolution and losing oneself. For a long time, there has been a desire, mainly from Australia and New Zealand, to speed up the game and reduce the influence of scrums. I understand why they lean in this direction. In markets where rugby has to compete fiercely with other sports, like AFL or rugby league, increasing speed and reducing dead time can help retain fans.
But I feel that if scrums become nothing more than a formality, 15-player rugby will no longer be itself. South Africa has opposed the idea of weakening scrums. According to reports in L'Equipe and later confirmed by Rapport, South Africa worked closely with France to defend the core principles of 15-player rugby. I paid special attention to this detail because it showed that this was not a spontaneous reaction, but a strategy carefully prepared over months. The South African leadership team, including figures like Rassie Erasmus, Jaco Paper, Rian Oberholzer, Dave Wessels, and Felix Jones, worked with other countries for 3 months before the conference. This made me even more respectful of how they approached the issue: no noise, no direct attacks, but preparing data, arguments, and building alliances. 15-player rugby has long been a sport for all body types, from the big players who specialize in scrums to the smaller, quicker backs with agility. It is this diversity that makes the sport uniquely beautiful.
If we eliminate or diminish the role of the scrum, will players with these specific physiques still have a place? And at that point, will rugby still be a sport for all body types? After the meeting, World Rugby confirmed that there would be no major changes to the current rules and that all parties had reached a consensus. On the surface, this was a neutral announcement. But I believe this consensus was not arrived at naturally. It was the result of tense negotiations, carefully prepared arguments, and strategic alliances like the one between South Africa and France. A representative from France, FFR's head of refereeing Mathieu Raynal, expressed satisfaction with the outcome, after previously fearing that some parties wanted to turn scrums into chaotic, uncontrollable situations. I think this statement reflects a common concern: when rules change too quickly, the stability and fairness of the game could be affected. What impressed me was how South Africa prepared its media campaign before the conference. A month before the event, they released a 3-part video series called The Shape of the Game on YouTube, in which Erasmus, Jones, and Paper analyzed the current state of rugby and the role of the rules.
I saw in this a smart strategy, not only convincing in the meeting room but also building public support with clear data and arguments. This is a modern, transparent, and persuasive way to approach things. South Africa did not get everything they wanted, but they could still be content with the result. And I believe that, sometimes, success is not about a complete victory, but about protecting the most important core values. I have learned many lessons for myself. First, when faced with the pressure of change, innovation does not always mean progress. I realize the importance of understanding the core of the issue before supporting or opposing any reforms. Second, thorough preparation, backed by solid data and arguments, is always more important than emotional reactions. South Africa didn't just say no, they proved why. For rugby fans, I believe this is a reminder that we also have a responsibility to protect the values of the sport we love. Support development, but don't trade away identity.
Respect innovation, but don't forget tradition. 15-player rugby is not just about fast runs or spectacular tries. It's also about the intense scrums where strength, technique, and teamwork come together. I am grateful that, in the end, last week in London, the parties chose the cautious path instead of rushing. In a world where everything wants to be faster, stronger, shorter, taking a moment to ask, who are we, is absolutely necessary. And perhaps, that question is what will help rugby continue to thrive and develop sustainably in the future. I do not blindly take a side. I understand the commercial pressures, the need to expand markets. But personally, I believe that lasting value always comes from preserving the core. If rugby is to remain rugby, then any future improvements will need a solid foundation. And that, too, is the greatest lesson I remind myself. Before changing, truly understand what you're protecting.
Goodbye from Scrum Masters Elite_UK. We must protect the identity of 15-a-side rugby, respect tradition, and innovate with strategy.